Hi, Joni here. Russia's 2025 summer offensive failed spectacularly. That will be the topic of today's video. Let's get to it. Russia's 2025 summer offensive is over, and it failed spectacularly. No major cities taken, massive losses. Russia is still stuck fighting for cities it was supposed to capture years ago. Another season, another disaster. Russia once again paid a massive price. Tens of thousands of casualties, huge losses in equipment, all for almost no territorial gain. A brutal waste of lives and resources, without even getting close to reaching its goals. Russia was supposed to take the rest of Donbass a long time ago, and it won't happen in 2025. Russia attempted to do many things this summer. In Zaporizhzhia it planned a major push, but it failed before it even started. In Sumy, Russia repeated its 2024 Kharkiv disaster. Just like last year, it managed to advance during the first few weeks, but did not manage to achieve any breakthrough, and was then pushed back by Ukraine. No buffer zone for Russia in 2025. Just more dead Russian soldiers and burned equipment. A real copy of the 2024 Kharkiv failure. And in the Donetsk region, which is the main direction of this summer's offensive, Russia is still stuck in Chasiv Yar and Pokrovsk. That's just insane. I remember when Russia arrived at the gates of Chasiv Yar. Back then it was supposed to be a question of weeks. It's been well over a year. The same in Pokrovsk. Just imagine how hard it would be for Russia to take bigger towns like Kramatorsk or Slovyansk. If it takes Russia tens of thousands of casualties and a lot of time to take smaller towns like Bakhmut, Avdiivka, Chasiv Yar and Pokrovsk, Kramatorsk and Slovyansk will take forever. Russia is just in a tough situation. There's no clear path to victory for them. Even if they're advancing, it's just too slow and costly. Is Russia ready to take 1 million more casualties just to take the Donbas region? Meanwhile, Ukraine has escalated its strike campaign once again. New drones and missiles hit Russian refineries and infrastructure, hurting Russia's economy. Ukraine is developing new drones, new cruise missiles and new ballistic missiles all at the same time. And Ukraine's ongoing strikes seem to be better planned than the ones in 2024. Ukraine also just produces way more drones and missiles than back then. So this campaign could have a bigger impact than the one in 2024. Back then the West asked Ukraine to stop, and the same might happen again. Let's hope it doesn't, because there's a lot of potential for Ukraine to intensify its strikes, and to make the war more and more costly for Russia. Let's cross fingers and hope that things go as planned, and that the West doesn't limit Ukraine once again. Ukraine shouldn't listen to the West on this anyway, especially since the drones and missiles they're using are produced in Ukraine. But Russia's offensive and Ukraine's strikes are not the only things that happened during this summer. Ukraine also pushed forward with its corps reform, which is complex but promising. It's never easy to reform your command structure during a war, but the direction is the right one for sure. And this reform should make Ukraine's command much more efficient over time. And on top of that, despite internal crises and Trump's pressure, Ukraine managed to stay united and to keep the West behind it. Since the beginning of the full-scale war, Russia's propaganda has been claiming that the West is about to abandon Ukraine. And that hasn't happened. The West clearly doesn't do enough, but we also aren't abandoning Ukraine. Especially Europe is not about to abandon Ukraine. And the US still allows us to buy US weapons for Ukraine for now. That's a big diplomatic success for Ukraine, one of the big successes of this summer, and at the same time it's a Russian failure. When looking back at this summer's offensive by Russia, it's not their first failure. Russia is used to it. Its population barely notices these things anymore. Had Ukraine done something similar, the media would talk about it constantly, including the Western media. We would talk about it for weeks and question if Ukraine is going to ever succeed again, and talk about what a costly failure it has been. But when it's Russia, we barely talk about it. And it's important that we do, because the numbers don't lie. Over the last 1,000 days of war, Russia has managed to occupy less than 1% of Ukrainian territory. And this has happened at the cost of around 1 million Russian casualties. That's pathetic at best. What a huge failure. This is already the fourth summer of the full-scale war. And once again, those who predicted a Russian breakthrough were wrong. And they'll act like nothing happened, as always. And they'll be wrong next year again, because they never learn from their mistakes, and because they keep listening to the same people who are always wrong. People who have been claiming that Ukraine is about to collapse for 3.5 years in a row. And it just never happens. But one thing is clear, Russia won't stop until it's stopped, because it's just way too far from reaching its strategic goals. Peace now would lock in defeat for Russia. Something Putin can't really afford even if he manages to spin it somehow. As I've said before, Russia is further from reaching its strategic goals now than it was in March 2022. And also further than it was before the full-scale war. And it just can't stop the war because of that. The war is economically and demographically unsustainable for Russia, and it can't keep this pace forever, but at the same time it also can't afford to stop. The main question is, how long can Russia keep going? And that depends on several things. How much aid is Russia going to get from its allies and partners? China, North Korea, Iran, India, Slovakia and Hungary will play a key role. Some of them supply weapons, others finance Russia's war, and finally countries like Slovakia and Hungary block European sanctions. Their role is really important for Russia. The other important thing is how much pressure will the West put on Russia. To conclude this video, Russia failed once again this summer, and will lose this war strategically, because Russia is not going to reach its strategic goals in this war. But it's up to us, especially in Europe, to decide how long this stupid and useless war will continue. It's up to us to accelerate the end of this useless suffering. And the only way to do that is to pressure Russia. The war is not over. It's actually far from over. And after failing this summer, Russia is preparing for a major offensive once again. And it won't stop until we stop it. Let's help Ukraine end this useless war. Let's increase our aid to Ukraine and our sanctions on Russia. What do you think about this? How long can Russia keep going like this? How big and successful will their next offensive be? They have prepared around 100,000 troops that are near Pokrovsk. That's massive. Is Ukraine going to launch any offensive in the next few months? Will Ukraine launch any big offensive anymore during this war? Write your thoughts in the comments. Well, that was it for today's video. I hope that you liked it. If you did, please like and subscribe and see you in the next video. Thank you.